What's up, y'all? It's TruthTiger, and I'm here to talk about this Charlie Kirk assassination situation. And I think this is going to be a big blow to the woke left. And I want to clarify that I think the Democratic Party, I think they will just shift a little bit. They will shift more to the right, and they'll just try to be a little bit to the left of the Republicans. The Democratic Party's been around for a long time. They were on the side of slavery back in the day, and Abraham Lincoln actually founded the Republican Party. Since then, the Democrats have rebranded quite a bit, shall we say, but my point is, it's just a political party. They'll do what they have to do to get votes. They'll say what they have to say to get votes. And I don't think the Democratic Party is going to necessarily go anywhere, but the woke left, though, the woke left has just taken a big hit from this assassination. It makes them look incredibly bad. And the thing is, a suspect has been caught. We're probably the guy who did it. Information needs to come out. It seemed like there were, Antifa type things written on the shell casings. I'll need to look into the story more, but that seems to be what's coming out. Is that the shooter is associated with Antifa. I'm not 100% sure, though, but that seems to be what it's looking like. And the thing is, I live in Seattle, Washington, and these Antifa people, they're crazy. They wear all black. They took over a couple city blocks back during the pandemic, during all those protests and stuff. They barricaded the street. They wouldn't let ambulances in. It was a whole mess, and they're very, kind of angry, militant, type of folks. So I could get that one of their people would try to assassinate Charlie Kirk. I could understand that. That kind of, that adds up in my head. Again, we're not totally sure. They haven't, there's no guilty verdict yet, so we don't quite know yet, but that seems to be what this is pointing in. And the thing is so many of the people on the side of the left have been celebrating, but not all of them have. I've seen probably about a 60-40 split where, and I was looking at this on Reddit and, YouTube comments and X, and, I was looking at a lot of different sites to see what people were saying, and it seems like about 60% of the liberals were saying this is terrible, this is horrible, we don't support this is awful. And then another 40% of them were celebrating, and they were happy, and they were filled with joy and glee, and it was very sickening to see that many people celebrating, but a good amount of them were. And what I'm seeing is that they are actually facing consequences. At least in my area, it's kind of seemed like if you're conservative, you get put in the penalty box, but if you're liberal, you can kind of get away with more. But what we're seeing is people are losing their jobs, people are being exposed, and there's a big public backlash against people who are celebrating the Charlie Kirk assassination. And there should be. People should not be celebrating that. That's just showing how low their morals are, how low their ethics are, and it's making the woke left look really bad. The woke left is looking terrible. And I'm sorry for getting political here. I don't usually get political, but due to recent events, the Tiger is getting a little bit political, so sorry about that, but we are going to go there a little bit. But yeah, this makes the woke left look really bad. This makes them look like they're not very moral or ethical. This makes them look like they lack values, and it makes them look like they are violent, in support of violence, liking violence, and about violence. And, the people celebrating that, it's like, hey, if you're celebrating that, then you're about violence and people getting killed and assassinated. And not only that, but you're about people with opposing ideas being shut up and shut down. And the psychology of this is they say that anyone they disagree with is a Nazi. They say that anyone they disagree with or is on the other side of the aisle is a horrible, bigot, Nazi, racist. They throw the worst slander possible at, political opposition, i.e. conservatives. They throw the worst slander possible, the worst guilt and shame, saying they're the worst people. And what they do in their own heads is they dehumanize the other side. They dehumanize the opposing viewpoints. they dehumanize the other side of the aisle. And then when they dehumanize the other side of the aisle, it becomes then okay to treat those people whatever. Treat them whatever which way. Treat them as horribly as you want because we have dehumanized them. We have made them in our own minds into the worst villains possible. But this is not the reality of the situation at all. I'm more on the conservative side of things. I believe in God. I think family values are important. And I'm a man, and I like being a man, and I think that's okay. And I think there's a lot of stuff on the left that's like anti-men and stuff like that. And and I don't love all the conservative stuff all the time. There's things about it that I don't always agree with, but that's more where I'm at. But, it's not like some, this Nazi thing or whatever that they try to make it out to be. But when you have a mentality like that anyone you disagree with or anyone who's on the other side of you in terms of your political beliefs is literally Nazis and Hitler, despite, obviously the actions not lining up, despite obviously that being a very poor comparison, and it's just a gaslighting attempt to guilt and shame the other side. I mean, it's just gaslighting to try to make the other side look bad, and then they get to play a victim. They were victims, and because we're a victim and they're an oppressor, we could do whatever we want to them without any moral or ethical implications or obligations, essentially is what it is. And it's twisting things up. Oftentimes conservative people can become victims of the woke left, and can be, censored and canceled and stuff. But now the woke left is getting canceled for celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination. And they should be. They should be getting canceled for that. I saw the Carolina Panthers communications coordinator. He celebrated the assassination and lost his job. Boom. I'm hearing about a lot of people celebrating this who are losing their jobs. And the thing about the response is when something like this happens, whether it's on the right or the left side, whatever side of the aisle, the response is typically, we're not like that. That's just one crazy guy with mental health issues. That's not the rest of us. That's just some weird, crazy outlier. We're normal. This doesn't represent us. And hey, you guys also did that bad thing that one time a few years back. So, bad things happen on both sides. And, they typically will say something like that. And then they'll be like, and we're going to stay the course with what we're doing. This isn't going to change our course. And let's not pay attention to this too much. But I'm not seeing that response. I'm seeing some people on the left say that here and there. But the predominant response is either what is going on inside our own party? Why did this happen? I've seen a lot of comments of people saying they disagree with Charlie Kirk, but they're very upset about this assassination. And that is the correct response, for people on the other side. And then there's, a good amount of them who are celebrating it and stuff. And that division is going to cause the woke left to fall apart. And the thing about the woke left, it's relatively new. It's only been around for, I don't know when the woke left started, maybe in the 90s, early 2000s. I mean, different people can argue different time periods and stuff like that, but I think it's a relatively new thing that came about pretty fast, and I don't think it really has as deep of roots as people maybe think it does. I think it's just something that exploded in popularity, became very big. But I think right now this is a huge hit for it, and a lot of people are going to be questioning, what am I supporting and doing with this woke left stuff? Am I supporting violence? Am I supporting political violence? Am I supporting assassinations? Am I supporting the Antifa black bloc who are going to do street takeovers and who are going to essentially sling tons of mud on their opposition and call, their oppositions Nazis and stuff? And a little note on that. Again, I'm more conservative. I came from a Orthodox Jewish background. I visited the concentration camps in Poland. I knew a lot of people who, were the children of Holocaust survivors. And to throw that around just at political opposition, just like, we don't agree with you, we don't like you, Nazi. I mean, that's really trivializing the actual victims of the Holocaust. That's trivializing the horrors that the Nazis did. That's trivializing the complete brutal dictatorship that Nazi Germany was. They're National Socialists. That's one term the left doesn't love to hear, National Socialists, but what the Nazis call themselves. But But yeah, like, and people are going to start to say, like, hey, like, what we're being a part of, it's not about love. It's very hateful. And I think a lot of people on the left are realizing that this left-wing stuff is just like, it's very angry, it's combative, it's hateful. It's just about throwing as much guilt and shame at people as possible. And it's about like radicalization too. It's about like how far and extreme can you go with it? How politically extreme can you get, you know? And I think a lot of people who are, you know, on the left wing are more like just kind of regular everyday people. They're not trying to be, you know, these crazy psycho political activist type people. They're just trying to be normal. They're not trying to protest every day of the week or, you know, make politics their whole personality. And they're definitely not trying to support political assassinations or anything like that. And I think those kind of people are looking around like, wait, we just want to live our lives. You know, we're just have a more liberal viewpoint. We don't want Charlie Kirk to be assassinated. You know, we're just, you know, we just have a liberal viewpoint. And I think those kind of people, they're going to look at their own party and the woke left and their own side of things, their own sphere, and they're going to go, oh crap, what is going on? And the Democratic Party, they're going to look at this and they're going to be like, we got to shift away from this because the majority of people aren't going to vote for us or support us if we're attached to this. And MSNBC, which is a very liberal, very, very liberal news source, they fired one of their news people because he supported the Charlie Kirk assassination. They're making a statement. I have noticed that CNN and MSNBC, which were historically very liberally biased news sources, I'm noticing they're shifting a little more conservative. I'm like, okay, interesting. And I'm starting to kind of see the shift that's happening. And I think that shift is happening in a lot of people. And I think a lot of this, you know, being this like hardcore radical woke leftist, I think it's kind of tiring and exhausting. And people are getting older. They got bills to pay. They got stuff to do. And they're like, I can't just live my whole life about political activism and rallying and protesting and, you know, I got to have a personality and other stuff going on in my life, and I want to have friends, and I want to have a solid group of people around me, and I want to just like have a family and live a normal life, and I don't want my whole life to be about all this crazy political activism. So I think that's really waking up a lot of people on the left, and they're like, I can't be a part of this. I can't roll with all this radical, angry, crazy, insane stuff, you know, and I think we're seeing... We're definitely seeing the left start to fall apart, especially the woke radical side of the left is going to fall apart big time. And I really think this Charlie Kirk assassination is the kind of the final nail in the coffin for them, and they have a big hole in their ship. And I know a lot of other people are making this video talking about this, so I just wanted to throw my 2 cents out there and speak on this a little bit. Sorry for getting political, y'all, but in these times, you know, we got to speak on it. So, yeah, much love, God bless, and I will see you all next time.